chapter 17 of Rudra Samhita Part 3. In this we read that after securing the boons from Brahma, the demon Tarka, he conquered the three worlds and he wreaked havoc all over. He drove out the devas from heaven and he also made them subservient, capturing their women. Now, of course, the gods were distressed and they reached out to Brahma and narrated their plight. And Brahma told them that because he had granted the boons to the demon, he could not do anything about it, and the only one that could help, the only person or the only god who could help them was Shiva, and it was only Shiva's son who could kill this demon Tarka. So when he told Devas that they should plan a way by which they can unite Shiva and Parvati so that a son can be born who can destroy Tarka. And then Brahma also told Tarka to leave heaven and rule from earth. So Tarka obeyed Brahma's orders and he went to a town called Samhita, where from there he ruled his entire kingdom. And from there on, the gods, they went back to heaven and they reminded Indra that he should come up with a plan to unite Shiva and Parvati. Now, Indra then summoned Kama. Now, Kama came there with his wife Rati and his minister Vasanta, or Spring, and there Indra told him about the plight of the gods, and he told Kama that only he could help the gods by uniting Shiva and Parvati and trying all necessary means by which he can generate sentiments in the hearts of Parvati for Shiva. And when that Kama heard all that, Kama was deluded by Shiva's Maya and he gladly agreed to help them. So he went to the ridge where Shiva was performing penance and Parvati was serving the Lord with his wife and his minister. And today we are going to read what happened after that. Today we will be reading chapter 18, which is the description of perturbation caused by Kama, and chapter 19, destruction of Kama by Shiva. Rashmi Aunty will be reading in English and Raj Aunty will be reading in Hindi. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji. Chapter 18, that's the description of the perturbation caused by Kama. Brahma said, after going there, the haughty Kama, deluded by Shiva's magic power, stationed himself after first spreading the enchanting power of spring all around. The enchanting influence of spring spread everywhere around Asadiprastha, the penance grove of Shiva, the Supreme Lord, O excellent sage. O great sage, the groves bloomed with special exuberance, O excellent sage, due to his power. The fragrant flowers of mango and ashoka trees shone heightening feelings of love. The water lilies with bees hovering on them proved to be the causes for the rise of love in the minds of everyone. The sweet cooings of the cuckoos heightened emotions of love. They were exquisite and pleasing to the mind. O sage, diverse sounds of the hummings of the bees rang sweet in the ears of everyone, heightening temptations of love. The bright light of the moon scattered all around appeared to be the emissary of lovers and their beloveds. At that time, the Kaladipika induced reticent haughty persons to love. O good sir, the wind blew gently but distressed those who were separated from their beloveds. Thus the vast effusion of spring caused the display of emotions of love. It was unbearable to the forest-dwelling sages. O sage, then even the insentient beings had the emotions of love. What about the state of sentient ones? Thus, spring employed his unbearable power, heightening the love of all living beings. On seeing the untimely display of spring, Shiva the Lord, who had assumed a physical body indulging in divine sports, thought it surprising. But he, the chief of self-controlled and the remover of man's misery, continued his severe penance. When spring spread everywhere, Kama, accompanied by Rati, stood on his left side with the arrow of mango blossom taken out and kept in readiness. Enchanting all people, he spread his influence. Who was not enchanted on seeing Kama in the company of Rati? Thus, they initiated their dalliance. The sentiment of love too, accompanied by coquettish gestures and emotions, reached the vicinity of Shiva along with his attendants. Kama, usually stationed within the mind, manifested himself outside, but he could not find any vulnerable loophole in Shiva whereby he could enter him. When Kama did not secure any entry within the great yogin, he became deluded and frightened much through the magical power of Shiva. Who could gain access to Shiva in meditation? Who could fix an eye in his forehead that resembled fire with shooting blazing flames? In the meantime, Parvati came there along with her two maids and brought various kinds of flowers for Shiva's worship. Certainly, Parvati had a greater beauty than the most exquisite lady described by people on the earth. When she wore pretty flowers of the season, how could her beauty be described even in 100 years? No sooner did she enter within the proximity of Shiva than he came out of his meditation for a short while. Profiting by that opportune moment, Kama, by means of his arrow, Harsana, delighted the moon-kissed god Shiva who was nearby. O sage, in assistance to Kama, Parvati reached the place near Shiva with emotions of love and accompanied by spring. In order to make the trident-bearing lord take interest in her, Kama drew his bow very carefully and discharged his flowery arrow on him. As was her usual practice, she approached Shiva, bowed to him, worshipped him, and stood in front of him, awaiting further instructions. Parvati was stared at by Lord Shiva while she was laying bare some of the limbs bashfully, as is natural to women in such circumstances. Remembering the boon granted to her by Brahma formerly, O sage, Lord Shiva began to describe her limbs joyfully. Shiva said, "Is this your face or the moon? Are these your eyes or lotus petals? These two eyebrows are the bows of Kama of noble soul. Is this your lower lip or bimba fruit? Is this your nose or the beak of a parrot? Do I hear your voice or the cooing of the cuckoo? Is this your slender waist or the sacrificial altar? How can her gait be described? How can her comely appearance be described? How can the flowers be described? How can the clothes be described? Whatever is graceful and sweet in the creation has been incorporated here. Indeed, all her limbs are exquisite in every respect. How blessed is this Parvati of mysteriously wonderful features. There is no other woman equal to her in beauty in the three worlds. She is storehouse of the finest beauty. She has wondrous beautiful limbs. She is an enchantress of even sages. She increases great happiness." Brahma said, after describing her body again and again, recollecting the boon granted by Brahma, Shiva stopped. When Shiva put his hand within her garment and moved it, she, as is natural to women, bashfully withdrew and kept aloof. O sage, then Parvati smilingly laid bare some parts of her body and cast graceful glances at him with great pleasure. On seeing these movements and gestures, Shiva became fascinated. Lord Shiva, indulging in great divine sports, spoke these words, "I feel great pleasure on merely seeing her. What pleasure shall I derive by embracing her?" Thinking thus only for a moment, the enlightened Shiva became detached, honored Parvati, and spoke. "How wonderful and mysterious is the situation that has arisen. How is it that I have been deluded and fascinated? Though I am the Lord and Master, I have been perturbed by Kama. If I, the Master, were to yearn for the touch of a woman's limbs, what will not be done by other incompetent and insignificant creatures?" Thus, resuming detachment, Lord Shiva forbade her sitting on the couch. How can there be a downfall for the great Lord Shiva? Chapter 19, Kama's destruction by Shiva. Narada said, "O Brahma, the most fortunate one, what happened then? Be pleased to tell me that story that destroys our sins altogether." Brahma said, "O dear one, hear the story of what happened thereafter. Out of love for me, I shall recount Shiva's sports that bring about joy." On seeing the dissipation of his courage, Lord Shiva, the great yogin, thought within himself, wondering much. Shiva said, "How is it that obstacles have cropped up while I am performing the great penance? Who can be that wicked person who has made my mind highly perturbed? With love, I have described in bad taste another man's woman. I have contravened rules of virtue and transgressed the bounds of the Vedas. Brahma said, after thinking like this, the great yogin, the goal of the god, good, surveyed all around, his suspicion having been aroused. He saw Kama stationed on his left side with his bow fully drawn and ready to discharge the arrow. Kama was haughty and so was very senseless. O Narada, on seeing Kama in that attitude, instantaneously anger was aroused in Lord Shiva, the Supreme Soul. O sage, standing high up in the air, holding the arrow and the bow, Kama discharged his arrow, usually unerring, on Shiva. The infallible weapon became futile on the great Lord. The furious weapon calmed down in regard to the great soul, Shiva. Kama was frightened when his weapon failed. Standing there and seeing Lord Shiva, the conqueror of death, in front, he trembled. O great sage, when his endeavor became futile, Kama, who was frightened much, remembered Indra and all other gods. O great sage, remembered by Kama, Indra and other gods came there, bowed to and eulogized Shiva. When the gods eulogized thus, a great flame of fire sprang up from the third eye of the infuriated Shiva. That fire, originating instantaneously from the eye in the middle of his forehead, blazed with flames, shooting up and resembling the fire of final dissolution in refulgence. After shooting up in the sky, it fell on the ground and rolled over the earth all around. Even before the gods had the time to say, let him be forgiven, let him be excused, it reduced Kama to ashes. When the heroic Kama was thus slain, the gods became miserable. In their agitation, they lamented much and saying, oh, what has happened? They cried aloud. With pallid face and limbs, the extremely agitated daughter of the king of mountains returned to her palace, taking the maids along with her. Due to the misery on account of the death of her husband, Rati fell down unconscious as if dead. When she regained consciousness after a while, Rati in her great agitation lamented loud and said, Rati said, what shall I do? Where can I go? What is it that the gods have done in making my husband a victim thus? They have called him here and destroyed him. Oh, Lord Kama, dearer to me than my vital heirs, O bestower of happiness, what has happened here? My dear, Brahma said, lamenting thus and crying out various piteous words, she beat with her hands, kicked with her legs, and plucked her hairs. O Narada, on hearing her lamentation, even the beasts and residents of the forest, nay, all the immobile trees and bushes became miserable. In the meantime, Indra and other gods remembered Lord Shiva and consoled Rati, saying as follows. The gods said, take some ashes and preserve them. With effort check your fear. The Lord will resuscitate your lover. You will regain your lover again. There is none who gives us happiness or misery. All enjoy and experience the fruit of what they do. In vain do you curse the gods? Brahma said, after consoling Rati thus, all the gods approached Shiva and propitiated him. With great devotion, they spoke these words to him. The gods said, O Lord, O great God, favorably disposed to those who seek refuge in you, be pleased to listen to these well-intended words of ours. O Shiva, be pleased to ponder over the action of Kama. O Lord Shiva, there is no tinge of selfishness in what Kama has done. O Lord, he had been induced to do so by all the gods harassed by wicked Tarka. O Shiva, please know that it is not otherwise. O Lord, the chaste Rati is lonely and miserable now. O Lord Shiva, she is in great lamentation. O bestower of everything, please console her. If you have finally disposed of Kama, O Shiva, you are desirous of annihilating all the gods by means of your fury. On seeing the distress of Rati, the gods are almost doomed. Hence, you must remove the distress of Rati. Brahma said, on hearing their words, Lord Shiva was pleased. He said this to all the gods. Shiva said, O gods, O sages, all of you listen attentively to my words. What has happened, thanks to my fury, cannot be altered. The Lord Kama, the husband of Rati, shall remain bodiless till Vishnu incarnates as Krishna on earth and marries Rukmini. Krishna will beget Kama and Rukmini when he goes to Dwarka and begins to procreate children. His name will certainly be Pradyumna. The demon Sambara will abduct the boy at the time of his very birth. After abducting the boy, the great demon Sambara will throw him in the sea. The foolish fellow will take him for dead and will return to the city. O Rati, you shall stay in his city till then. There alone you will get back your husband Pradyumna. Kama, in the name of Pradyumna, will regain his wife after killing Sambara in a battle. O gods, he will be happy thereafter. After taking all the valuable properties of Sambara, O gods, he will go to the city again along with her. These words of mine are true. Brahma said, on hearing these words of Shiva, the gods heaved a sigh of relief. Joining their palms in reverence and bowing to him, they said, the god said, O great God, Lord of gods, O Lord, the ocean of mercy, please resuscitate Kama quickly. O Shiva, save the life of Rati. Brahma said, on hearing these words of the gods, great God became delighted. The Lord of all, the ocean of mercy, spoke again. Shiva said, O gods, I am delighted. I shall resuscitate Kama within myself. He will be one of my ganas and will sport about always. O gods, this story should not be narrated in the presence of anyone. All of you return to your abodes. I shall destroy all miseries. Brahma said, after saying this, Rudra vanished even as gods were eulogizing him. The gods became delighted and free from mental suspense. O sage, abiding by the directions of Shiva and consoling Rati by means of conciliatory words of Shiva, the gods returned to their respective places. O excellent sage, then Rati, the wife of Kama, went to the city and waited for the time mentioned by Shiva. This concludes the English reading. Hindi reading would be done by Rajanti. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji. Shukrana Guruji for giving me the seva. Chapter 18 and 19. रुद्र की नेत्राग्नि से काम का भस्म होना, रति का विलाप, देवताओं की प्रार्थना से शिव का काम को द्वापर में प्रद्युम्न रूप से नूतन शरीर की प्राप्ति के लिए वर देना और रति का शंबर नगर में जाना। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, मुने, काम अपने साथी बसंत आदि को लेकर वहां पहुंचा। उसने भगवान शिव पर अपने बाण चलाए। तब शंकर जी के मन में पार्वती के प्रति आकर्षण होने लगा और उनका धैर्य छूटने लगा। अपने धैर्य का हास होता देख महायोगी महेश्वर अत्यंत विस्मित हो मन ही मन इस प्रकार चिंतन करने लगे। शिव बोले, मैं तो उत्तम तपस्या कर रहा था, उसमें विघ्न कैसे आ गए? किस कुकर्मी ने यहाँ मेरे चित्त में विकार पैदा कर दिया? इस तरह विचार करके सत्पुरुषों के आश्रयदाता महायोगी परमेश्वर शिव शंका युक्त हो संपूर्ण दिशाओं की ओर देखने लगे। इस समय वाम भाग में बाण खींचे हुए कामदेव पर उनकी दृष्टि पड़ी। वह मूर्छित मदन अपनी शक्ति के घमंड में आकर पुनः अपना बाण छोड़ना ही चाहता था। नारद, इस अवस्था में काम पर दृष्टि पड़ते ही प्रथम गिरीश को तत्काल रोष चढ़ आया। मुने, उधर आकाश में बाण सहित धनुष लिए खड़े हुए काम ने भगवान शंकर पर अपना अमोघ अस्त्र छोड़ दिया, जिसका निवारण करना बहुत ही कठिन था। परंतु परमात्मा शिव पर वह अमोघ अस्त्र भी मोघ हो गया। कुपित हुए परमेश्वर के पास जाते ही शांत हो गया। भगवान शिव पर अपने अस्त्र के व्यर्थ हो जाने पर मनमत को बड़ा भय हुआ। भगवान मृत्युंजय को सामने देखकर वह कांप उठा और इंद्र आदि समस्त देवताओं का स्मरण करने लगा। मुनि श्रेष्ठ, अपना प्रयास निष्फल हो जाने पर काम भय से व्याकुल हो उठा था। मुनीश्वर, कामदेव के स्मरण करने पर वे इंद्र आदि सब देवता वहां आ पहुंचे और शंभु को प्रणाम करके उनकी स्तुति करने लगे। देवता स्तुति कर ही रहे थे कि कुपित हुए भगवान हर के ललाट के मध्य भाग में स्थित तृतीय नेत्र से बड़ी भारी आग तत्काल प्रकट होकर निकली। उनकी ज्वालाएं ऊपर की ओर उठ रही थी। वह आग धू धू करके जलने लगी। उसकी प्रभा प्रलयाग्नि के समान जान पड़ती थी। वह आग तुरंत ही आकाश में उछली और पृथ्वी पर गिर पड़ी। फिर अपने चारों ओर चक्कर काटती हुई धराशायिनी हो गई। साधो, भगवान क्षमा कीजिए, क्षमा कीजिए। ये बात जब तक देवताओं के मुख से निकले तब तक ही उस आग ने कामदेव को जलाकर भस्म कर दिया। उस वीर कामदेव के मारे जाने पर देवताओं को बड़ा ही दुख हुआ। वे व्याकुल हो हाय हाय ये क्या हुआ ऐसा कह कहकर जोर जोर से चित्कार करते हुए रोने बिलखने लगे। उस समय विकचित हुई पार्वती का सारा शरीर सफेद पड़ गया। काटो तो खून नहीं, वे सखियों को साथ ले अपने भवन को चली गई। कामदेव के जल जाने पर रति वहां एक क्षण तक अचेत पड़ी रही। पति की मृत्यु के दुख से वह इस तरह पड़ी थी मानो मर गई हो। थोड़ी देर में जब उसे होश आया तब अत्यंत व्याकुल हो रति उस समय तरह तरह की बातें कहकर विलाप करने लगी। रति बोली, हाय मैं क्या करूं, कहाँ जाऊं? देवताओं ने ये क्या किया? मेरे उद्दंड स्वामी को बुलाकर नष्ट करा दिया। हाय हाय नाथ, समर्थ स्वामिन, प्राण प्रिय, हा मुझे सुख देने वाले प्रियतम, हा प्राणनाथ, ये यहाँ क्या हो गया? ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, नारद, इस प्रकार रोती बिलखती और अनेक प्रकार की बातें कहती हुई रति हाथ पैर पटकने और अपने सिर के बालों को नोचने लगी। उस समय उसका विलाप सुनकर वहां रहने वाले समस्त वनवासी जीव तथा वृक्ष आदि स्थावर प्राणी भी बहुत दुखी हो गए। इसी बीच में इंद्र आदि संपूर्ण देवता महादेव जी का स्मरण करते हुए रति को आश्वासन दे इस प्रकार बोले। देवताओं ने कहा, तुम काम के शरीर का थोड़ा सा भस्म लेकर उसे यत्न पूर्वक रखो और भय छोड़ो। हम सबके स्वामी महादेव जी को कामदेव को पुनः जीवित कर देंगे और तुम फिर अपने प्रियतम को प्राप्त कर लोगी। कोई किसी को ना तो सुख देने वाला है और ना ही कोई दुख ही देने वाला है। सब लोग अपनी अपनी करनी का फल भोगते हैं। तुम सब देवताओं को दोष देकर व्यर्थ ही शोक करती हो। इस प्रकार रति को आश्वासन दे सब देवता भगवान शिव के पास आए और उन्हें भक्ति भाव से प्रसन्न करके यूं बोले। देवताओं ने कहा, भगवान शरणागत वत्सल महेश्वर, आप कृपा करके हमारे इस शुभ वचन को सुनिए। शंकर, आप कामदेव की करतूत पर भली भांति प्रसन्नता पूर्वक विचार कीजिए। महेश्वर, काम ने जो ये कार्य किया है इसका कोई स्वार्थ नहीं था। दुष्ट तर्कासुर से पीड़ित हुए हम सब देवताओं ने मिलकर उससे ये काम कराया है। नाथ शंकर, इसे आप अन्यथा न समझें। सब कुछ देने वाले देव गिरीश, सती साध्वी रति अकेली अति दुखी होकर विलाप कर रही है। आप उसे सांत्वना देकर शंकर प्रदान करिए। शंकर, यदि इस क्रोध के द्वारा अपने कामदेव को मार डाला तो हम यही समझेंगे कि आप देवताओं सहित समस्त प्राणियों का अभिसंहार कर डालना चाहते हैं। रति का दुख देखकर देवता नष्ट प्राय हो रहे हैं, इसलिए आपको रति का शोक दूर कर देना चाहिए। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, नारद, संपूर्ण देवताओं का ये वचन सुनकर भगवान शिव प्रसन्न हो उनसे इस प्रकार बोले। शिव ने कहा, देवताओं और ऋषियों, तुम सब आदर पूर्वक मेरी बात सुनो। मेरे क्रोध से जो कुछ हो गया वह तो अन्यथा नहीं हो सकता। तथापि रति का शक्तिशाली पति कामदेव तभी तक अनंग रहेगा जब तक रुक्मिणी पति श्री कृष्ण का धरती पर अवतार नहीं हो जाता। जब श्री कृष्ण द्वारका में रहकर पुत्रों को उत्पन्न करेंगे तब वे रुक्मिणी के गर्भ से काम को भी जन्म देंगे। उसका काम का ही नाम उस समय प्रद्युम्न होगा, इसमें संशय नहीं है। उस पुत्र के जन्म लेते ही शंभरासुर उसे हर लेगा। हरण के पश्चात दानव शिरोमणि शंभर उस शिशु को समुद्र में डाल देगा। फिर वह मूढ़ उसे मरा हुआ समझकर अपने नगर को लौट जाएगा। रते, उस समय तक तुम्हें शंबरासुर के नगर में सुखपूर्वक निवास करना चाहिए। वही तुम्हें अपने पति प्रद्युम्न की प्राप्ति होगी। वहां तुमसे मिलकर काम युद्ध में शंबरासुर का वध करेगा और सुखी होगा। देवताओं, प्रद्युम्न नामधारी काम अपनी कामनी रति को तथा शंबरासुर के धन को लेकर उसके साथ पुनः नगर में जाएगा। मेरा यह कथन सर्वथा सत्य होगा। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, नारद, भगवान शिव की ये बात सुनकर देवताओं के चित्त में कुछ उल्लास हुआ और वे उन्हें प्रणाम करके दोनों हाथ जोड़कर विनीत भाव से बोले। देवताओं ने कहा, देव देव, महादेव, करुणा सागर प्रभु, आप कामदेव को शीघ्र जीवन दान दें तथा रति के प्राणों की रक्षा करें। देवताओं की ये बात सुनकर सबके स्वामी करुणा सागर परमेश्वर शिव पुनः प्रसन्न होकर बोले, देवताओं, मैं बहुत प्रसन्न हूँ। मैं काम को सबके हृदय में जीवित कर दूंगा। वह सदा मेरा गण होकर विहार करेगा। आप अपने स्थान को जाओ, मैं तुम्हें तुम्हारा दुख का सर्वथा नाश कर दूंगा। ऐसा कहकर रुद्रदेव उस समय स्तुति करने वाले देवताओं के देखते ही देखते अंतर्ध्यान हो गए। देवताओं का विस्मय दूर हो गया और वे सब के सब प्रसन्न हो गए। मुने, तदंतर रुद्र की बात पर भरोसा करके स्थिर रहने वाले देवता रति को उनका कथन सुनाकर आश्वासन दे अपने अपने स्थान को चले गए। मुनीश्वर, काम पत्नी रति शिव के बताए हुए शंबर नगर को चली गई तथा रुद्रदेव ने जो समय बताया था उसकी प्रतीक्षा करने लगी। अध्याय 18 और 19 समाप्त। जय गुरु जी। थैंक यू।